Excellent. All right. Well, we've got a couple of minutes yet to go. When we get a bit closer, Brett, you'll do the usual countdown.
Thanks, Doug. Will do.
Councillor Moore, I'll send you a text message when you can come back in the meeting.
Councillors, can I have your attention, please? I welcome you all to this meeting of the Town Planning Committee and now declare the meeting open. Due to the current COVID-19 restrictions, this meeting is being held virtually and webcasted live over the internet. On the matter of the COVID restrictions in place at the moment, I do encourage any residents that may be affected by the current restrictions to refer to Council's website. There is a raft of information available regarding support services and other useful information if you need that assistance. Moving on to the reflection and prayer. Can I ask Councillor Radford to say that, please? Thank you, Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our community.
Thanks, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Radford, for that. Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Moving on to apologies, I note that we have all councillors present. Moving on to declarations of interest. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest? I see you, Councillor Moore. Can you describe that interest, please?
Thank you, Mayor Owen. I declare a material conflict of interest in regards to item 5.1 regarding the application of Bridle Place due to my daughter's residing in close proximity of this property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. We do note that declaration of interest. Any other councillors that have a declaration of interest that they wish to declare at this time? I see there being none. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to the first item, item 5.1, T210071 PA, development of the land for 4 dwellings on a lot and to end restrictive covenant P601136V at 6 Bridle Place in Pakenham. Councillor Moore, I do note that you have declared an interest in this item, so can you please leave the meeting, and Mr Evans will let you know when to come back in the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll wait Mr Evans' text message to come back to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. All right, we note that Councillor Moore has left this meeting, so we acknowledge that. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Councillor adopts the officer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davies. Can I have a seconder, please? I do note Councillor Kowaczyk as seconder. Back to you, Councillor Davies, to speak to this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopts the officer's recommendations, these being that for the proposal for the development of the land for 4 dwellings on a lot and to remove the restrictive covenant P601136V be refused on the following grounds. 1. Council cannot be satisfied that the removal of the restriction will be unlikely to cause any beneficiary of the restriction any detriment of any kind. 2. The removal of the restriction will detrimentally affect the interests of surrounding landowners under clause 52.02 of the Cardinia planning scheme. And 3. The removal of the restriction is inconsistent with the orderly planning of the area. I have considered the planning proposal, its 2 community submissions and the report prepared by council officers. Cardinia Shire Council is a growing area and there is broad support for increasing housing densities and providing quality 1 to 2 bedroom housing. This type of development is needed to provide a wide range of housing choice to residents, and in particular, doing this in close, walkable proximity to transport and to township services is important. The developer lodging this permit is seeking to build 4 double-storey units. These 4 units appear to have been designed to achieve general compliance with applicable building and planning standards, including sustainability, vehicular movement and garden areas, and their proposal is in accordance with the land zoning. However, there is a significant legislative barrier in place, being that a restrictive covenant applies to the land. This would need to be removed prior to this development occurring. I understand that council does remove covenants as required, and that is an available option to us as a council. Also significant in this matter is that 2 submissions, both objections, have been received in relation to this application. These are from 2 Bridle Place landowners, Mr. Rees and Ms. Miller. I am of the opinion that the proposal for 4 double-storey units on this block is not within the existing street character, and as such does not constitute orderly planning of the area. However, I would urge the developer of this proposal to reconsider their approach, to revisit this site, because council and the Cardinia landowners and locals want renewal and revitalisation of our streets and places and spaces, and we want quality and sustainable builds and a range of housing options. But not what has been proposed. We need to see development proposals that provide both a high quality amenity and livability. I do support the council officer's recommendations and seek support from council in refusing this permit. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll go to the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk, to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be supporting Councillor Davies and the officer's recommendations tonight. Firstly, I also want to commend council officers for the quality of the report, which goes into a lot of detail. This application is being rejected to the existing covenants placed on the property and council's opinion that these be maintained. I just want to read a brief quote contained within the report, as I believe it succinctly covers what the single dwelling covenant is laid out to achieve. Quote, "The manifest purpose or benefit of a single dwelling covenant is to maintain the building density in an area, variously put by saying that single dwellings keep the peace and tranquility or ambience of an area, as the presence of multiple dwellings on land brings with it added use, more people, more cars, more movement, reduction in land values and space, more noise or general hustle and bustle, more rubbish and waste collection, so on and so forth," end quote. Now, we want to promote small business and the development which employs them, and the construction sector more widely, which I'm a part of in my day job. However, it's got to be considered development, which is consistent with the orderly planning of the area. This application, as it currently stands, is not. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Any other councillors wishing to speak, please indicate. Okay, I see none. I will thank you, Councillor Davies and Kowaczyk, for your talking points. So I agree with you. I will go to Councillor Davies to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Thank you also to the council officers for their diligence in reviewing and considering this proposal. I conclude by seeking council support in supporting the officer recommendations, which is refusing this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillors, I will put this item up for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Thank you. Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. I will now ask Mr Evans to invite Councillor Moore back into the room. Thank you. We'll wait for that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Moore. I see you have rejoined the meeting. We'll go back to the agenda. Thank you. Next item is item 5.2, T20005, use and development of the land for domestic animal husbandry, dog breeding at 150 Settlement Road in Caldermeade. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Cameron. Councillor Cameron, I do understand that you have a motion that differs to the officer's recommendation. Can you go ahead with that motion, please, Councillor Cameron? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion is that the planning application or planning permit application T21005 for the use and development of the land for domestic animal husbandry, that is dog breeding, at L1 TP 310627 150 Settlement Road, Caldermeade, be refused and a refusal to grant a permit be issued on the following grounds. And those grounds are: the proposal is inconsistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of the Rural Conservation Zone. The proposal is inappropriately located within a flood-prone area and is contrary to the purposes, objectives and strategies of the land subject to inundation overlay and clause 13.03-1S, that is floodplain management, and 21.02-1 catchment and coastal management. The proposal is incompatible with surrounding land uses. The proposal does not respond to the vision or objectives for the Western Port Green Wedge. The proposal will result in unreasonable off-site amenity impacts. And the proposal does not represent the orderly planning of the area.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Can I have a seconder for that motion? I note Councillor Ryan. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Back to you, Councillor Cameron, to speak to your motion. Thank you.
I move that the planning application T21005 for the use and development of the land for domestic animal husbandry, that is dog breeding, at 150 Settlement Road, Caldermeade, Victoria, be refused and refusal to grant a permit be issued on the following grounds. Similar to what I've already outlined, the proposal is inconsistent with the purpose and decision guidelines for the Rural Conservation Zone. The proposal is inappropriately located within a flood-prone area and is contrary to the purposes, objectives and strategies of the land subject to inundation overlay and clause 13.03-1S floodplain management and 21.02-1 catchment and coastal management. The proposal is incompatible with surrounding land uses, the surrounding land uses that being mostly dairying. The proposal does not respond with the vision or objectives of the Western Port Green Wedge. The proposal will result in unreasonable off-site amenity impacts, and the proposal does not represent the orderly planning of the area. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Cameron. I will go to your seconder, Councillor Ryan, to speak. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. At this stage, I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I do note that. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this motion of Councillor Cameron's? Thank you. Councillor Davies first. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cameron, for the alternate motion. I do support the alternate motion, and my reasoning is due to the flooding and the surface water treatment concerns. This is something that we need to take very seriously. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other councillors wishing to speak? I can't see any other councillors. I will go back to Councillor Cameron to sum up her motion. Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
I think I've pretty much said it all. Thanks, Mayor, in relation to the objections. So I'll just leave it to a show of hands. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. I'll put the motion of Councillor Cameron's up for this item 5.2 to a vote. Oh, sorry. This is the problem with I'll go back to Councillor Ryan to add to this motion. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It seems like we all have these glitches, and yes, it can be off-putting at times. I will be supporting the alternate motion that Councillor Cameron has presented. I think she's covered most of it. I think we've got to look at why do we need to breed these dogs? Are they show dogs? No, they're not show dogs. The conditions that they would be subject to on the land that's not appropriate for the breeding, I would be very, very concerned. So these are the reasons in the reference. Someone's got to speak out in reference to the dogs. And so I will be supporting the alternate motion. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councillor Ryan, and I'm sorry for leaving you out before. I will actually, go back to Councillor Cameron to see if she's got any other words that she wishes to sum up before I go to the vote. Councillor Cameron, any further?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think I've said it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillors, I will now go to the vote in relation to item 5.2, the motion of Councillor Cameron's. All those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 5.3, T200808PA, extensions and partial demolition to a heritage hotel, use of the land for a gaming premises, 40 EGMs and a function centre, parking reduction, alter access to a RDZ1, increase area and patrons for liquor at 96 to 102 Station Street, Coorierup. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Cameron, so thank you, Councillor Cameron, if you'd like to move this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I move as per the officer's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I note your seconder. I will go back to Councillor Cameron to speak to this item. Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor. The council the council officers refused the application for alteration and extension to the existing hotel in a heritage overlay for the reasons of the proposal is inconsistent with clause 21.606-4 gaming and clause 2203 gaming. The proposal is inconsistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of clause 52.28 of gaming. The proposal is inconsistent with clause 18.02-4 car parking and clause 5206 car parking, as it fails to provide adequate on-site car parking. The proposal does not result in any net community benefit, and the proposal does not represent the orderly planning of the area. Further to that, the hotel is within 250 metres of the Catholic primary school in Kuirup, and it is under 1 kilometre from the Kuirup primary school. The parking issue interferes with the CFA officers if they happen to get called out and there's patrons at the hotel. The car parks outside the CFA station are usually full of hotel patrons' vehicles, and they have nowhere to park in an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Ryan, to speak. Thank you.
I'll reserve my right to speak, Mayor, at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I won't make that same mistake. I'll go to any other councillors wishing to speak to this item. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Kwasik first, and I see there's others wanting to speak too. Thank you, Councillor Kwasik.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I want to thank Councillor Cameron and Councillor Ryan for this motion. I'll be supporting Councillor Cameron tonight the officer's recommendation. As Councillor Cameron said, this proposal does not result in a net benefit to the community, and I think fundamentally that's what we're looking at from a council perspective. What is the overall net effect to the community? And if it's a net negative, then I don't think it's a good idea to proceed, and I absolutely support that. It's obviously inconsistent with the outcomes sought in Council's livability plan, and I think that's fairly evident. Another point of view, and I've had this point of view from residents regarding that they want the freedom to visit the pokies should they wish to do so. We live in a free country. I would just like to point out there's obviously alternatives fairly close by in Tooradin and Pakenham as well. Again, I also want to commend officers for the quality of this report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kwasik. Any other speakers? I think Councillor Davies. Go ahead, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. And I had planned actually not to speak tonight, but I do believe that it's really important for the community to hear us debate this issue. There has been a significant amount of work actually issued to Council by the Cardinia Shire Council officers relating this report. One item that I do feel really needs discussion is electronic gaming machines. The cost that these do place on a community and the importance of being strict with our planning controls to minimise the impacts of this. When it came down to it, and there is a detailed analysis available in the notes attached, but the financial implications to our community and the associated detriment is something that I'm certainly not willing to sign off on as a councillor. So due to the social costs of pokie machines, I also support the officer recommendations, which is in refusing this permit. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this item? Before I go to Councillor Ryan, thank you to the other councillors who've spoken on this item. I support the officer's recommendation. I'm really concerned about convenience gambling. It's diagonally across from the supermarket and other retail in the area, and convenience gambling is a real concern, and that's why I think it's detailed in the officer's recommendations for reasons for refusals, as it's not in line with the I suppose best practice regarding such venues. Really concerned about convenience gambling I have on this item. So I will go to Councillor Ryan to talk. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor, for remembering me in the little corner over here. Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for presenting this. I am in support of the officer's recommendation on this. It's a very valid point in our community coming under the livable plan, and pokies isn't one of them that's serviceable within our community. Yes, everyone has the right to go and play the pokies in any capacity. It's your choice. But we're making a decision, a business decision from council, that this is not, with the recommendations of the officers, have given us that this is not the right place for them. My concerns are the noise factor. The hotel is very close to residents' properties and also within the church and the schools. There's also, as Councillor Cameron pointed out, the CFA and the issues with the parking of cars within the street. It would be difficult for the CFA to get out in emergency services. Financial loss to people, residents within our community. We see this a lot within our community. We have seen it worldwide. I think all in all, under the livable plan, I cannot support this. I will support the officer's recommendation instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Speaking as seconder, I will go back to Councillor Cameron to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In summing up, the hotel also has both historical and aesthetically significance to Cardinia Shire. And according to the Heritage Study, historically, the Royal Hotel is significant as an illustration of the growth of Kuurup in the early decades between the 20th century. It's been one of the major social centres in Kuurup since 1915, and it's associated with popular figures in the town. It's also significant as one of the finest examples of an Edwardian hotel design in the Gippsland region. It's a prominent local landmark within Kuurup and it's an important element within the historical Station Street precinct. And in accordance with the officer's report for the proposal, the application did not specify the number of gaming machines, but it did set aside a space for a gaming room, which measures 54 metres squared. So I think under the circumstances and thinking about the economic climate that we're in at the moment, I think that the council officers have made the right decision in not granting this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillors, I will put this item up to a vote, to item 5.3. Councillors, all those in favour, please indicate by a show of hands. Thank you. Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on. So, councillors, that does conclude discussions of the items withdrawn. May I have a mover to adopt the officer's recommendations for items 5.4 and 5.5 on the agenda, councillors? Can I have a mover, please, and a seconder? So moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Springfield. Councillors, all those in favour, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you. Against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. So thank you, councillors, and everyone watching tonight. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you for your interest again, and I do remind residents that may be concerned by the current COVID restrictions to check out Council's website in regard to any services that are available or any other assistance that we can provide. So thank you, councillors. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.